Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to another installment of On This Day with Christy. Howdy. Today is Friday, June 12th, 2026. This being Friday, as well as usual, we recap what we covered Monday and Wednesday, and learn some new stuff along the way about today. So, let's hop in the van, our magic van, and go to the past, the present, the strange, possibly other dimensions. We'll see. Anyhow, on this day in music history on Monday, in 1996, the Fugees scored their first #1 UK hit with Killing Me Softly. In 1985, Tears for Fears began a 2-week run at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 with their new wave classic, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. It earned them an award for Best Single at the 1986 BRIT. In 1974, Dolly Parton went to #1 on the Billboard Country charts with I Will Always Love You. And in 1991, the New Jack Swing group Color Me Badd scored their first #1 with I Wanna Sex You Up. Factoids from Monday. It was World Ocean Day and Best Friends Day. And in 2025, 2,000 members of the National Guard were deployed against anti-ICE protesters in California. Protests began on July 6th when ICE agents raided a number of locations across the city. In 2024, while rescuing 4 captives in central Gaza, Israeli soldiers killed 247 Palestinians and injured 698. In 2023, former President Donald Trump was formally accused of mishandling classified documents. In 2020, Dr. Kathy Sullivan became the first woman to reach the deepest part of the ocean in the Mariana Trench. In 2009, 2 American journalists were sentenced to 12 years of hard labor for illegally entering North Korea. In 1992, World Ocean Day was celebrated for the first time. In 1984, New South Wales, Australia celebrated its first day of homosexuality being legal. And last but not least, in the 1940s, the chemistry of the chemical element neptunium was announced. On Wednesday's recap, we start with music history. In 2004, pioneering singer and songwriter and pianist Ray Charles died at the age of 73. In 1975, the Eagles released their 4th studio album, One of These Nights. In 1979, actor Jason Donovan became the first Australian to debut at the top of the UK charts. In 1978, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John scored their first #1 with You're the One That I Want from the Grease soundtrack. In 1966, the Monkees entered Los Angeles' RCA Studios. Factoids. It was Iced Tea Day and Ballpoint Pen Day. In 2020, Swedish authorities finally closed a 34-year-old inquiry into the murder of their prime minister. It ended up 30 years later they found the killer, and he was dead. So in 2018, the Opportunity Mars rover sent its last signal to Earth. In 2000 in London, the Millennium Bridge was closed for safety checks following large crowds, which caused it to sway. In 1963, the U.S. signed the Equal Pay Act to reduce the difference in pay between sexes. In 1940, Italy declared war on France and Britain. Benito Mussolini was the Italian leader at the time and wanted to end the Anglo-French presence within the Mediterranean. And last but not least, in 1935, Alcoholics Anonymous was founded in Akron, Ohio. Now, it's time for today. On this day in music history, in 1964, the Beatles arrived in Adelaide, Australia, for their first and only tour of Oceania. As they deplaned, they were met by an estimated 300,000 fans who lined a 10-mile route into the city center. Over the next 2 weeks, the band performed shows across Australia and New Zealand, including 3-night engagements in Sydney and Melbourne. The dates were part of the band's 1964 World Tour, during which Ringo was hospitalized with tonsillitis and replaced temporarily with drummer Jimmy Nicole. On June 15th, Ringo flew into Sydney to complete the rest of the run. In 1965, In 1965, with Back in My Arms Again, the Supremes became the first act to score 5 consecutive number 1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. The Motown classic also topped the Billboard R&B chart and went to number 1 in Canada. In 1966, Pink Floyd had a lucky night at London's Marquee Club, where manager Peter Jenner caught their show. Several months later, Jenner and Andrew King would sign a joint management contract with the British band. And last but not least, in 2006, Prince, who was the first major artist to release an album exclusively online, 1997's Crystal Ball, received a Webby Lifetime Achievement Award. Sorry, that just sounded weird. Okay, let's hop back in our magic van and go find some facts on factoids. Today is Red Rose Day, as well as Loving Day. Okay. In 2025, Air India Flight 171 from Ahmedabad, India to London crashed 30 seconds after taking off. Of the 230 passengers and 12 crew members aboard, only 1 passenger survived the devastating crash. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner struck a medical college's hostel block and exploded, killing another 19 people and injuring 60 more. Wow. In 2018, the leaders of North Korea and the USA met for the first time ever. U.S. President Donald J. Trump met with North Korea's Kim Jong-un at the 2018 North Korea-United States-Singapore Summit in Singapore. North Korea's newly developed nuclear capabilities largely prompted the summit. The two leaders agreed on North Korea's denuclearization in return for greater security guarantees. Further peace talks and friendlier relations are also on the table. In 2007, Michael Bay's Transformers premiered in Sydney, Australia. That's a good movie. I like Transformers. Anyway, in 1997, Queen Elizabeth II reopened the reconstructed Globe Theatre in London. The reconstructed theatre, named Shakespeare's Globe, was created to be as faithful as possible to the original design, which burnt down in 1613. That was a long time ago. In 1977, Roy and Gay Raymond founded Victoria's Secret and opened its first store in San Francisco. You know what Victoria's Secret is? She's a slut. Sorry, it's an old joke I heard a long time ago. But it was funny. In 1967, the U.S. Supreme Court In 1967, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled interracial marriage legal. In 1965, the idea of the Big Bang Theory being the creation of the universe was supported by scientists. In 1964, Nelson Mandela was committed to life in jail. In 1931, American gangster Al Capone was charged with conspiracy to violate probation laws between 1922, prohibition laws, sorry, not probation, in 1922 and 1931. And lastly, in 1923, Harry Houdini broke free from a straitjacket while hanging upside down 40 feet in New York City, U.S. Now, it's time to take a jump back in our party van. No, our magic van. Could be a party van. Whichever. Anywho, let's hop back in our van and put on our thinking caps because it's time for trivia. First question. What's the national animal of Scotland? Answer, unicorn. Question. What is the largest living species of lizard? Answer, the Komodo dragon. Who painted Starry Night? Answer, Vincent van Gogh. And our bonus question. Which planet has over 145 known moons? Answer, Saturn. Now let's jump back and take our our trivia hats off and put on our party hats because it's time for birthdays. In 1941, Reg Presley. 1941, Roy Harper. 1941, Chick Corea. A lot of people born 1941. 1951, Bun E. Carlos. 1951, Brad Delp. 1959, John Linnell. And 1979, Robin. If it was your birthday today, happy birthday to you, and I hope you have a great one. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend ahead, and stay safe. All right, you can catch us here 7 days a week with Brian the Rock Stone on WCDI, and don't forget to check out Top Rope Report every Sunday and Wednesday. Ciao.